Hello once again, my achievers. It's nice to be back with you again for another literacy session. Now, as we continue to look at sentences, remember that some may be long and some may be short. Some may even have more information than others. Those very factors would help us to understand and determine whether a sentence is a simple sentence, a compound sentence, or a complex sentence. And like I said to you on our last lesson, where we looked at simple sentences, that we would be moving on to look at compound sentence. Now you have to remember that a sentence has two basic parts. That's the subject and the predicate. The subject being the part that tells who or what the sentence is based on, and the predicate, which is the other part containing the verb and other information relating to the subject. So now that we have looked at some examples of simple sentences and how they can be structured, let's now focus on compound sentences. Now, when you hear the word compound, I wonder what you are thinking about. Is there anything that you did previously that you can link that word to? Can you remember your lesson on compound words and what they are? Now look at this word, blackbird. Blackbird. What can you recognize? If you have been looking at the word carefully and thinking about it, you would have noticed that this word is made up of two words that can be separated and used individually. Did you notice that? Yes, we have black and bird. Black by itself has a meaning, and bird by itself has a meaning. So the word blackbird can be separated into two parts, black and bird, and each of those words can then be used individually. Now, in the same manner, a compound sentence has more than one part that can stand alone or stand by itself with a meaning. Those parts into which the sentence is separated are referred to as independent clauses. Now, you would have remembered that when we were doing simple sentence, we said that a simple sentence is also an independent clause. It means that the entire thing has a meaning and stands by itself. Now, we take simple sentences and we put them together to now form what we call compound sentences, which means that if we separated that, both parts of the one sentence will have individual meanings. So, the independent clauses used may be connected by coordinating conjunctions, conjunctive adverbs, or the use of a semicolon. Now, let's look at this example to help us understand better. We went to the beach party and most of us danced all night. We went to the beach party and most of us danced all night. Now, I want you to look at this sentence and think about it in two parts. Look and see if you can break the sentence into two parts, and each part should have a meaning by itself or can stand by itself. We went to the beach party. Isn't that a sentence by itself? Yes. Most of us danced all night. That by itself too is a sentence. But here we're taking those two bits of information and we're going to put it together to make one sentence. But can we just say we went to the beach party, most of us danced all night? It sounds quite rushed. So, to avoid that rush in reading our sentence and to give a smoother flow, we would use a conjunction. But which conjunction would we use? We would use a coordinating conjunction. In this example, we are using and. We went to the beach party and most of us danced all night. So there we would have actually put two simple sentences together to give us a compound sentence. But what we're going to say is that we have two independent clauses that are joined with the coordinating conjunction to make our compound sentence. Let's look at it in this way. When we look at the first part of that compound sentence, we went to the beach party. We could identify the subject in that part of the sentence as well as the predicate. So in this case, the independent clause, you must be able to identify the subject and the predicate in both parts that you separate it into. So we said, we went to the beach party can be one simple sentence by itself or an independent clause. And then we said, most of us danced all night could be the other. Now, you have to try to identify the subject and the predicate in both parts of those short sentences or independent clauses. So in the first part, we there is our pronoun and is our subject. Means that this part of the sentence is talking about we. What did we do? We went to the beach party. So that makes our predicate, our verb included, and the prepositional phrase. Then we have most of us danced all night. Now, who is this part of the sentence talking about, or who is this clause talking about? Most of us. So that part there is the subject. We are talking about most of us. And what is it about most of us? We danced all night. So danced all night there would be our predicate. In this part of our compound sentence, you would realize that all night there would be a modifier, or as we said earlier, something that adds a little more information to the entire scenario. So we went to the beach party and most of us danced all night. Well, as we discussed, we use our coordinating conjunction. Now, this is just a simple map to show you how a compound sentence is formed. In the first clause, you must have a subject and a predicate, and in the second as well. And then you use your coordinating conjunction. Now let's look at another example of a compound sentence. Tom swims. Does that make sense? Perfect sense it makes. Tom swims. That by itself is a simple sentence. Mary plays cricket. Does that make sense? It absolutely does. Mary plays cricket. It's telling us something about Mary. But now we want to join these two simple sentences to make a compound sentences. Or remember, as I said, we say an independent clause. So we are now joining two independent clauses to make our compound sentence. Two separate coming together to make one. So we have Tom swims and Mary plays cricket. Tom swims and Mary plays cricket. So let's say you want to give information about yourself and a sibling, brother and sister, or something like that. You don't have to write two sentences. You just have to know how to structure it so it becomes a compound sentence. Now, I was talking about using coordinating conjunction in those examples. But remember, we could also use conjunctive adverbs, or we could use the semicolon. So let's review. Always remember fanboys when you're thinking about coordinating conjunctions. Fanboys. And you will remember those conjunctions. Those are for, an, ner, but, yet, and so. Let's say them again. For, and, nor, but, yet, so. And if you take the first letter from each of those, we will come up with fanboys, which is the acronym we use to remember that. Now, Tom swims and Mary plays cricket. Now, here is a better mapping to show you. Independent clause 1, Tom swims, and Mary plays cricket is our second independent clause. Now remember also we can use conjunctive adverbs. Now, what are those? They are simply adverbs that can be used to connect two clauses. So like conjunctions, we have a few adverbs that can be used to connect two clauses. We refer to them as conjunctive adverbs. Now let's look at a few examples of some of those conjunctive adverbs. Accordingly, furthermore, moreover, similarly, also, hence, namely, still, anyway, however, nevertheless, then, next, thereafter, indeed, nonetheless, thus, finally, likewise, further, meanwhile, subsequently, yet, equally, elsewhere, thereafter, therefore, conversely, anyway, undoubtedly, besides, incidentally, otherwise, undoubtedly, otherwise, regardless, therefore, consequently, instead, and now. Now, these are some of the examples of conjunctive adverbs that we can use to connect two independent clauses. Now, let's look at this example where we use one of those adverbs to join. Bob is short, however, he is very fast. Bob is short, however, he is very fast. So, I could have used Bob is short as one sentence, which would be an independent clause. And then I could also use he is very fast as another short, simple sentence, which would be another independent clause. So here I want to bring those two ideas because for both of them, I'm referring to Bob. So I want to bring those two ideas into one. So Bob is short, however, he is very fast. So in that, I join my two independent clauses with the use of however. Now, in this example, you must note that the semicolon was also used. In this case, the semicolon goes before the conjunctive adverb and a comma after the conjunctive adverb. Now, these are punctuations that you would want to remember so that when you write your sentence, you write it correctly. Now, also with the conjunctive adverb, it can be placed at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the independent clause. So like this, I have however being used in three different positions to show you that. Bob is short, however, he is very fast. Here it is used at the beginning of the second independent clause. Bob is short, he is, however, very fast. In this case, I'm using the adverb in the middle of the second independent clause. And then I have Bob is short, he is very fast, however. We're using it there at the end. So, regardless of where it was placed, it does not change the meaning of the compound sentence, or it does not change that you can separate the two clauses to get your independent clauses. Now, with the use of the semicolon, let's look at this. Tom has benefited from his exercise program. He is slim and energetic. Tom has benefited from his exercise program. He is slim and energetic. In this case, we don't want to use a coordinating conjunction, neither are we using the conjunctive adverb. So we simply use the semicolon. two ideas about Tom, two separate ideas about Tom. Tom has benefited from his exercise program. He is slim and energetic. While they are separate and can be independent clauses, they both are connected. So here is how we use the semicolon in forming compound sentences. Now I have for you a few sentences. Now that we would have completed looking at simple sentences and we would have looked at compound sentences and how they're formed, we will play a game. I will read the sentence and you will determine whether the sentence is a simple or a compound sentence. Now remember that you have to be able to say what a simple sentence is and how it is formed before you actually are able to identify whether the sentence is simple or compound. Good, so try to refresh in your mind what a simple sentence is and what it should have to be considered a simple sentence. And then try to think about what we just discussed about the compound sentence and what it should have to be considered a compound sentence. If you do remember, a simple sentence could have a basic subject and verb, meaning it could just be Tom swims. That makes perfect sense. Or it can be made up of the verb, object, and modifier. So, Tom swims in the pool very fast could also be a simple sentence. For the compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses, or let's just say two simple sentences put together by either the use of coordinating conjunctions, conjunctive adverbs, or semicolon. So now that I refreshed your memory, let's get going. The bell rang. The bell rang. Is that a simple or compound sentence? It's a simple sentence. Number 2, Bridget ran the first part of the race and Tara biked the second part. Bridget ran the first part of the race and Tara biked the second part. Is that a simple or compound sentence? It's a compound sentence because Bridget ran the first part of the race by itself is a sentence. That's our first independent clause. Tara biked the second part is our next independent clause. So we have the two there being joined by the use of our coordinating conjunction and. Number 3, the diver flipped and jumped. The diver flipped and jumped. Is that a simple or compound sentence? It is definitely a simple sentence. In this sentence, we only have one subject, which is the diver. But if you look carefully, we have a compound predicate, flipped and jumped. So we have another simple sentence, but this time it has a compound predicate. Raymond studied hard, consequently, he passed the test. Raymond studied hard, consequently, He passed the test. Now, is that a simple or compound sentence? It is a compound sentence. And in this one, we are using a conjunctive adverb, consequently. Raymond studied hard. That by itself is a sentence or an independent clause. He passed the test is another that can be made into a simple sentence. It is therefore an independent clause. We join them together with the use of consequently. You and I need math lessons. You and I need math lessons. Is that a simple or a compound sentence? We have another simple sentence there. In this one, however, we have compound subject, you and I. You and I there forms the compound subject. What is it about you and I? We need math lesson. Number 6, I planned to go to the basketball game, but I couldn't get ticket. I planned to go to the basketball game, but I couldn't get tickets. Is that a simple or compound sentence? You're absolutely correct. It's a compound sentence. I'm sure that you're getting better and better at this. I plan to go to the basketball game is a sentence by itself. I couldn't get tickets is another, but we're joining them with the use of a coordinating conjunction, but. So I plan to go to the basketball game, but why couldn't I go? I couldn't get tickets. And our final, Dorothy likes whitewater rafting. She also enjoys swimming. Dorothy likes whitewater rafting. She also enjoys swimming. Is that a simple or compound? It's most definitely a compound sentence. Dorothy likes whitewater rafting is a sentence or independent clause by itself. She also enjoys swimming. There also we have another independent clause. If you look carefully in this one, you would realize that we would have used the conjunctive adverb also, not at the beginning of the independent clause, but we would have used it in the middle or the second word in the second part of our compound sentence. Well, boys and girls, so far we have learned all we can about simple and compound sentences. We have discussed that a compound sentence is one made up of two independent clauses. You must also remember that an independent clause is one that can stand by itself or one that has an independent meaning. To form compound sentences, coordinating conjunctions, conjunctive adverbs, or the semicolon can be used. Well, pupils, this is all in this session. Look out for our next lesson, where we will be looking at complex sentences. So until we meet again, continue to be good boys and girls. Goodbye.